ultra Tuscan orange grapefruit. My God, America is imploding.
Hello, everyone. We're back. It's another episode of Fanzone. I don't know that one single episode of Fanzone has given both myself and the competitors more stress than this episode, but that's okay. Very excited to be here. We've got a couple great competitors and some great judges here today to have a great match. I'm very excited. First on the desk with me is the co-question writer, showrunner of this program, Mr. Newberry. How are you?
Hey Cody, we have a match on Thursday. That's the length of my jobs for Fanzone. This is exciting. This was supposed to happen like 7 weeks ago or something at this point. I don't even know, but TWOHIG decided not to pay his internet bill, and he's been off the grid for a couple days, but he finally paid his bill, and he's back online. So hopefully it lasts through the length of this debate.
That is true. Also returning to the judging seat on Fanzone, Mr. Brian Michaels. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm feeling no stress because, first of all, I don't know the stress of this match because I was just tapped to do this earlier today. And secondly, this year I decided I'm going to step back from competing this year, just, judge me from now on. But so I have no stress at all. I can just sit and judge other people instead.
That's fair. That is fair. So the match we have for you guys today is Nick TWOHIG going up against Nico Suave Regoli, Nick being the number 4 seed in the tournament, Nico being the 13 seed. The last time we saw Nico, I believe it was still in that old thing that we don't speak of anymore, where he lost to Kirk. That was the last time we saw Nico. And then the last time we saw Nick was in a championship match. So that was a very close match. That went down to the last question. So both these guys have played a lot of debate, and yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens. Let's start by talking to the lower seeded competitor, Mr. Regoli. Nico, you are here. You are playing Nick. How are you feeling about the match?
Mixed bag of emotions. Like, on one hand, Nick is tired. This weekend has just beaten him to living hell. So it feels like this match should be served up on a silver platter to me. At the exact same time, I have not debated anyone who wasn't a Facebook MAGA guy in anything since that match against Kirk, which I still think I should have won. Don't read too much into the bad joke. Just basically, it's been a hot minute since I've debated anyone in anything. And these are kind of the sloppiest notes I've taken in a long time for a debate. So hopefully things will work out well. I see you're spinning the wheels in your head trying to think what kind of joke did I just make? Don't worry about it too much. Just let's just debate.
It's like when the gears get stuck and smoke comes out of someone's ears. That's what you
I feel like I have to think about it because maybe I want to delete that joke from the existence of time. Mr. TWOHIG, hello, welcome. You are the number 4 seed. You're going up against Mr. Regoli. The last time we saw you was in Fanzone in a title match. How are you doing?
Good start, Nico. Nico alluded to it. I am at what some would call my wit's end. The end of my wits. Last 3 days have been exhausting and draining. And I'm very loopy today. I'm still going to string enough sentences together to make more sense than Nico, so it'll be a fun time.
All right. Well, guys, here's how the show works. We gave the competitors 4 questions based off of 4 categories that they drafted. They are going to now debate those questions that we gave them. They submitted answers for them. They will get 1-minute openings, a 5-minute free form to debate each other, and then a 1-minute closing. At the end of the debate, myself, Cody, and Brian will write on our handy dandy boards or phones or whatever who we think won the point. And the first person to 3 is the winner. So if we need to, we will go to a bonus speed round question if we have to. So gentlemen, are there any questions before we get into the first prep round of debate?
Actually, yes. In relation to the countdown, Are you just gonna count us down, like, or will there be a clock at the?
No, I'll be
right-hand
coming
corner?
in and giving you a countdown.
Okay.
I'll be coming in and giving you a countdown. Yeah, so I'll come in with 10 seconds left during the minute, and then during the freeform, I'll come in at the 1 minute to give a warning and the 10-second.
Okay.
All right, so let's get into the first question after we watch the first best fight in Fanzone history. It's literally the greatest thing I think ever. It makes me so happy every time. Okay, guys, we're going to get started with the first question. It's in the category of Star Trek. The question is, who is the best cast member of the reboot Enterprise crew? So, Nick, you drafted this one. Mm-hmm. So you are going to get to start first. You have 1 minute to open your argument. I will come in and give you that 10-second warning when it comes.
Hello. The clear, uncut, no question, greatest cast member of the rebooted Star Trek crew is Simon Pegg. And it's really not even close when you think about it. When you consider, especially if you're considering them as a cast member, meaning what they also did off screen, Simon Pegg contributed more than any new cast member in terms of writing and in terms of getting a third movie made. But aside from all that, he has brought the character of Scotty into the modern day. He has built on him as a character while still honoring what James Doohan was able to do in the original series. And I think that's the best thing that an actor in a rebooted series can do, is pay tribute to what came before while also making it their own. Simon Pegg has a very distinct sense of humor, and it really sort of came about in this in 09 and in Star Trek Into Darkness, and especially in Beyond. He makes Scotty a first and foremost character, whereas James Doohan Scotty was a little bit in the background at all times. Simon Pegg gave him so much more to do.
Time. All right, Nico, we will go to you now for your answer. 1 minute when you start talking.
So as we've seen in all of his previous roles, from Scourge to Eomir to Judge Dredd, Karl Urban is a master of differentiating every character he plays and making them feel unique from one another, all the while remaining faithful to whatever source material those characters came from. And he did exactly that in his portrayal of Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy. Being a childhood fan of the original Star Trek TV show, he didn't want to do a facsimile or carbon copy of the role, but instead take the very essence of what DeForest Kelley did and honor that while bringing something new to the table. And that new thing he brought to the table was his own personal headcanon as to why is McCoy so cantankerous. He jokingly told the New Zealand Herald in an interview that McCoy might be a little bipolar, and that bipolarism he injected into the character, coupled with vintage Bones McCoy dialect and metaphors the character is previously known for, he made McCoy's interactions with other characters that much more enjoyable, which made Bones himself one of the funniest characters to follow throughout the Kelvin timeline.
2, 1, time. All right, so Simon Pegg versus you literally just said it, Bones. Karl Urban, Jesus. All right, guys, 5 minutes free form when one of you starts.
So that's great that Karl Urban thinks that's what he did. That's not what happened in the movies. He is literally a carbon copy of DeForest Kelley. He brings nothing new to the table. There's not a single scene you can point to that makes it any different from DeForest Kelley. There's several I can point to for Simon Pegg. Scotty, when he goes against his captain in Star Trek Beyond and says she's lost people too and disobeys orders, when he quits in Star Trek Into Darkness, he actually gives Scotty character beyond just having a funny Scottish accent, which is all James Doohan did.
See, that's where I disagree. The way Karl Urban's mood would shift so quickly from wanting to punch a character in the face to wanting to have a drink with them, from agreeing with Spock one moment and then 2 seconds later he's like, please shut up, don't agree with me. One of my favorite moments in Star Trek Beyond is when he's like questioning James Kirk of like, why are you drinking that illegal alcohol? By the way, here's some of the alcohol I just stole from Chekhov's locker. Try this for your birthday. And it's like it's those little touches of how he would there was bipolarism in there. Meanwhile, with Scotty, like I feel like he did too much of what James Doohan already did. Like he didn't add enough of a twist to make it his own. I feel like he was more of a carbon copy than Karl Urban was.
Not at all. James Doohan was a caricature. Simon Pegg gave Scotty character. He gave him depth. He gave him decisions to make. He made those decisions difficult. He's not just the funny person who pulls the lever anymore. You literally just said because he gave him a drink. That's in the script. Like someone wrote a script and said, Bones will give him an extra drink. There's no difference in personality from the moment DeForest Kelley comes on the Enterprise in the motion picture to Karl Urban. There's no difference. He's literally doing an impression. Scotty actually has more to do. He disobeys his captain. He quits the Enterprise when he's faced with a moral dilemma, and on the backside, behind the scenes, he turned the writing of Star Trek to get it back to honor the old episodic way that Star Trek was written, and he acted in it as well. He made Scotty a forefront character. His relationship with Jayla is something new that's added that we didn't see James Doohan do. You haven't pointed to really a single instance that Karl Urban did anything different than DeForest Kelley, because that drink scene, I could point the campfire scene in Final Frontier feels very similar, and Bones acts the same way in both.
The fact that Simon Pegg has a writing credit, like he had to give his character more stuff to do for you to even have an argument to feel like he did anything different. Like, and in my mind, that's kind of cheating. Like Karl Urban, he was given a script, and he made the absolute most of everything he did. Simon Pegg had to change the script to give his character more shit to do for you to even have an argument here.
Because he made him into a better character, because Scotty, as much as I love James Doohan, was never that deep of a character. He never had a whole lot to do. He never went against his captain. He never had decisions to make. Simon Pegg, which is why he's the best character, or he's the best cast member, is he gave Scotty those things to do. And even if he didn't write it, he brings it through on screen in his performance. So not only behind the scenes, but also on screen, Simon Pegg is doing by far more than Karl Urban, because Karl Urban is literally he's just being grumpy Bones. That's it. From the moment we meet him, he's like, it's fear of dying in something that flies. My wife left me. He's the same exact character. There's no difference.
This is exactly what I was afraid of here. Shit.
You're good, bud. Take your time.
Oh, these notes are so poorly written.
1 minute.
I will also add on
Fuck.
that Simon Pegg in Star Trek Beyond, which felt a lot more like the old episodic way that Star Trek used to be. So again, honoring what came before, while bringing your own spin on it. There's a reason people get Benji and Scotty confused, is because even though Benji premiered in Mission Impossible 3, he didn't really become prominent until later Mission Impossible films, and it's because he based Benji on Scotty from Star Trek, because that character is now so synonymous with Simon Pegg that that's what he was able to do with it.
But then does that really make his portrayal of Scotty original? Like if it's just something he took from another character, does that make it
he took from Scotty to make Benji. So Scotty was the original character. We're not arguing Benji. I'm just saying that
didn't Benji come first?
He came in Mission Impossible 3, but he didn't have a character in Mission Impossible. He didn't do anything in Mission Impossible 3.
But he's in there. He's there before
time. All right. Nico, you now have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
I maintain my statement that Karl Urban did add something different here with his portrayal of Bones. It like that bipolarism is there. The way he jumped from I go back to Beyond. The way the relationship he has with Spock. You see the troubles that Spock is having with Uhura, and motherfucker. Oh, fuck. Now I'm falling apart here. You know, I've lost this debate.
Right.
I've lost this first question. That is definitely obvious here.
Conceding the rest of your time. Nick, you have a minute to close your argument.
Oh, I guess I'll just reiterate that I think DeForest Kelley did Bones better, and Carl Urban really didn't expand on that. We see moments where DeForest Kelley is jovial with Spock and with the crewmates, and then turns in that bipolarism that Carl Urban says he added, but I just don't think he did. Simon Pegg did more than any other cast member in terms of getting the films made and writing. He also brought Scotty to be a prominent character in the films through his portrayal and through his writing. He has relationships with characters like J-Lo, which we don't see in the original series films with James Doohan. So it really expands on the character of Scotty, and that's why Simon Pegg, to me, is clearly the most valuable cast member of the new trilogy. And I will yield my time.
All right. So, I'm going to start. Do we all have our answers written?
Let's be real. Like,
No.
I felt
Hey,
You're on the
Thank
program. We got to run it the way we got to run it. I'm going to start, and I'm going to say that, funnily enough, before the big 30, 40-second silence, I was on the fence, and I'll tell you why. Nico said something about, Nick said something about to Nico, the only reason that Bones does that drink thing is because it's written that way. And then Nick proceeded to talk about all the things that were specifically written that were great about Scotty to do. And I thought that was kind of him going back on himself. So I was kind of on the fence. And then Nico conceded the point. In the end, Nick won me over before that. But I was kind of on the fence. But yeah, Nick. It's Nick. Cody.
TWOHIG. I won't give any. It's TWOHIG.
Brian. You're muted. You're muted, Brian.
I'm muted again. Sorry. I went with Nick. Honestly, it was really quite even for me for most of it because, both of them, but we're basically talking about the things they were given to do, the things that were written for them to do, what they did in the script, what their characters did, like, going against the captain and quitting. That's all not cast member. That's all the script, the writing of it. And I kind of thought they were just still on even ground. But yeah, obviously once Nico had to stray from his notes in the freeform, notes are great. I used them myself in debate, but in a debate, you have to be able to come back from things and give new information, and he lost it there.
Yeah. All right. So Nick does win the first point. We are going to move on to question number 2, which is in the category of, as soon as I pull it up, sports movies. This was chosen by Nico. The question is, what is the best sports movie? Very simple. So Nico, since he drafted it, gets to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument for best sports movie when you talking.
So Nick and I both picked sports dramas to answer this question, and I feel like the best sports dramas follow 2 specific criteria. They tell a great, emotional, relatable, inspirational story the movie-going audience can get behind, and 2, they actually portray sports realistically so the sports viewing audience doesn't feel like they're watching a parody or caricature of something they love. If we were arguing sports comedies, there'd be some wiggle room there, but we're not. So, and the way I see it, 1993's Rudy fits both of my criteria. Everyone on Earth can relate to loss and rejection. Everyone on Earth has had a dream that someone in their lives told them that for whatever reason they couldn't or wouldn't achieve. Rudy tells the real life story of a man who chose not to listen to those naysayers, a man who didn't want to let his late best friend's belief in him die in vain. Rudy Rudiger wanted nothing more than to physically play in a game of football for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and he jumped through every possible hoop financially, athletically, academically, socially in order to make that dream come true. And not only did he make that dream come true, but he changed everyone else's mind along the way. He changed his Playboy roommate into a compassionate and faithful man. He changed the minds of every person who ever doubted him, even turned them into believers and active supporters of his dream.
Time. All right. Nicholas, you now have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Some of those things Nico said that great sports dramas have, I tend to agree. That's why Warrior is by far the best sports film of all time, because not only does it have one of those, it has 2. Certain sports films will build up a villain that you don't really relate to, Whereas Warrior does the job of sort of making you decide, like, is this person the villain? It does the greatest two. It takes two of the greatest sports stories. One, a person who's especially in terms of like fighting movies, a person who's got nothing left to lose, and a person who has everything to lose. That's that's Tommy Conlon. That's Brendan Conlon. The Warrior tells the greatest of two stories, and it pairs them so well by making them both brothers who have been on completely separate tracks their entire life. It's such an amazing story. It actually has sports in it, which I'll get to. Rudy like really kind of does it when you think about it. And it actually focuses on the reason these people are playing, are in the sport they're doing. There's not a whole lot of MMA movies. What do you got? Here Comes the Boom, which makes this movie unique. So Warrior's by far the best. You relate most to the characters. It creates the most compelling story, and it does it twice. It does it with two different people. And I'll get to more of the time.
All right. Rudy versus Warrior. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
So, speaking as an MMA fan for the majority of my life, I will tell you that Warrior is, without question, the best MMA movie of all time. But the thing is, even with that said, the MMA still isn't very realistic in the way it's portrayed. Everything looks way too choreographed. Real MMA has a lot of broken rhythm and the occasional pause in between the striking combos and transitions. The movie instead had a lot of super quick exchanges that make it feel like you're watching a fight in a movie as opposed to it makes me feel like you're watching a movie fight as opposed to an MMA fight within a movie. Also, every grappling exchange in real life, in real MMA, not every grappling exchange ends with someone's back just being driven into the mat with a loud thud. Like sometimes they're soft, sometimes they're gentle. But when Koba literally picks up Brendan off the ground and throws him overhead into the cage, I'm like, this has gone into the realm of pro wrestling where my belief where my disbelief can't be suspended. Like, I'm like, this is not real MMA that I'm watching here. And that's the problem. At least with Rudy, the football, as little of it as you see, is realistic.
The 99% of people who've never done MMA don't care. It's exciting. It's well choreographed for people who are not 15-year MMA deep dive studiers. And it makes it relatable to watch to that section of people. The fighting is great. It actually takes place in the movie, whereas Rudy, you don't even get to training montages till at least 3/4 of the way through the movie. Instead, we have to watch him try and study for school and get his friend a date. It's not even a good sports movie. The whole point of Rudy is we're supposed to be rooting for him. He's supposed to eventually overcome this thing. At the end of the day, he's not good at football. I get it. You relate to the dude. Like, you feel for him. You want him to succeed. But the fact of the matter is he shouldn't. At the end of the day, he should not, because he's bad at football. The time we finally get to seeing him, the whole movie, I'm waiting for him to play football, and he doesn't. And then we finally get to training, and yeah, he's got heart, but he just keeps getting his ass kicked. He's not good at football. So when he finally does play, it sucks, especially when you realize his mentor, Fortune, was going to play Notre Dame football, and then he couldn't because of racism. And you're kind of like, wow, Rudy, why are you bitching? This dude clearly has more problems, and you're just bad at football.
Okay, look, we're going back to realism here. And the thing is, college sports, they make you focus on academics as much as they do the athletic side of things. So he had to conquer this academic obstacle in order to get even on the field for a tryout. And then he had to get through that tryout and like, he may not have been athletically gifted, but his goal was never to be the MVP of the game. He just wanted to play one game, and he got to do that. And not only that, but again, sports is about inspiration. It's about bringing people together through this love of sports, and that's exactly what he did. Everyone who ever said you're not going to amount to anything, they're the people who are throwing off their jerseys on the desk of the team owner saying, we won't play unless you let him dress for the game as well and play with us as well. And he got to do exactly that. And going back to the realism of Warrior, like, there's a lot of issues here in terms of not just the sports side of MMA as it's shown in Warrior, but also the business side. Like, this movie has a $5 million tournament grand prize for 2 nights, apparently on free TV, and it's being covered by CNN. That didn't happen in 2011 MMA. Like, you would be lucky if the grand prize for a tournament was $100,000. They wouldn't air it on anything other than pay-per-view, pay-per-view because they're trying to make up for the fact that they don't have any real money to give to these fighters. CNN would have never covered this. And
it's fiction. It's fiction. It's not based on a true story. It's fiction. We can believe that it's $1 million instead of 100,000. It makes us relate to the characters.
1 minute.
Brendan Conlon is fighting to keep his family, and he's risking losing it by going back into MMA. He's the greatest underdog story. You can tell him the way Tommy and Brendan fight. Tommy knocks out every opponent immediately because he's vicious, because he's lost everything in life. Nothing makes you relate to him more. And then you relate to Brendan, who has to go over this huge mountain of Koba, which any other lesser sports movie would make the main villain, and he doesn't. Instead, he comes over him, and he has to pin all his villains. He has to pin all of his fighters. You can tell.
Not pin, submit or knock out, but not pin.
We don't fight in the MMA. We don't know these things.
But I have wanted to fight in MMA for a long time, so the realism of this movie matters to me. And it just like
for a very long time, I'd like to take this last 30 seconds. So, Rudy, if you want to talk about realism, Rudy, based on a true story, a lot of it's fake. The coach wasn't a jerk. The players didn't go and hand their jerseys in. Fortune wasn't even a real character. His dad wasn't messed up on him. So when you think about it, if you want to argue that Rudy is so inspiring because it's based on a true story, a lot of it's a lie. And if you're telling me the climax of the greatest sports movie of all time makes a tackle, you're wrong.
Nick, you now have a minute to close your argument when you start talking.
I'll finish what I was saying. We're talking about the greatest movie of all time. If you're telling me the climax of the great, Rudy's good. I didn't hate the movie. I actually kind of liked it. But the fact of the matter is you don't root for Rudy at points because he's annoying. He just sort of pesters his way to the top. He just keeps asking people to let him play until they finally just give up and do. But at the end of the day, you realize he really shouldn't be there because he doesn't have the athletic ability. At the end of the day, he shouldn't play. And the fact that the climax of the greatest sports movie of all time is he goes in the game and says, "What do I do?" You're like, "Come on, Rudy. What the heck, man?" And he makes a tackle. And that's the greatest sports movie of all time. No, we have two brothers fighting their way through life, completely different paths. You relate to both of them. One of them fighting for his brother's own life at the end of the movie when Tom Hardy has gone through all this pain and sorrow. And the fact of the matter is you don't have any great performances. Like Rudy's fine. Sean Astin's fine. I have Joel Edgerton, I have Tom Hardy, Nick Nolte. All of these are Oscar-worthy performances in the greatest sports movie of all time. It's the best way to tell a story, and it's done in the best way. Rudy is kind of
time. All right, Nico, you now have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Brendan Conlon is a shitty husband. Like, he makes every decision without his wife's permission or approval. And like, if he's supposed to be the good guy, or at least one of the good guys here, he's not doing a very good job of that. Secondly, going back to the sports side of things, like sports movies, sports is a big part of the deal. And although mine doesn't have as much sports in it as Warrior does, at least the sports you do see is real. Like a football tackle, the football drills in training, like those are real things that football players do. Whereas in the actual fights in MMA, like everything is happening way too fast. Like Tommy Conlon is just bulldozing through everybody, whereas in like 5 seconds, whereas that's not realistic of how an actual MMA fight goes. We're talking about star-making performances here. Sean Astin did a good job here. Jon Favreau did a great job here. Sean Astin is annoying in this movie, but then again, so is trivia, and we let him play anyway.
Time.
That I tried to make that nicer than it sounded at the end, but I ran out of time.
Oh my god.
I swear that was meant to sound nicer than it did, but
he watches the program, and when he sees it, you can apologize to him then.
I'm apologizing to him now.
Perfect. Okay. Judges.
I have my answer.
Yeah.
I'm annoying, and you let me play anyway.
That's
would have been
true.
a way better thing to say.
Cody, you get to start. Or no, I'm sorry. No, Brian starts because his vote didn't count.
Yeah, Brian.
Okay, I'll start. I thought Nick actually came out of the gate really strong, basically pushing the fact that it has basically kind of two stories going parallel of somebody who has nothing left to lose and somebody who has everything to lose. And that was a really strong start for him. Nico, you made a good case for Rudy. I mean, it's an inspirational story. It doesn't have to have sports through the whole thing, but it's about, it is still a movie set against the backdrop of sports. But in the end, I really think that Nick had the stronger argument, so my vote went to Nick. I will give the funniest line of the night, though, to Nico, who said that college sports make you conquer academics before. athletics, which
That's
that doesn't happen.
hilarious.
Yeah, I realized as soon as I said that like, why didn't he not attack me for that?
I'm going next. I'm also going Nick. I actually agree with Brian. Yeah, like Nick started out really, really strong, but I actually thought Nico had some good points in there. It's just that Nick was able to just take them out really easily. Like when I heard the points from Nico, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then Nick just goes, it's fiction. And that just was like, yep, you're right. And that just kind of put away the whole Nico's pretty much the big point of his argument for me. Cody, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone?
I just love that it's good cop, bad cop. Tim's in here to make everybody feel bad and then feel good, and then me. Let me tell you how that earlier went on. I don't care about actual sports when it's about a movie. That had no weight in my arguments whatsoever. It has no weight. I heard nothing negative about the movie besides MMA. There's been knockouts in 5 seconds in UFC, so it was really confusing of an argument. And then you made it so realistic. And then TWOHIG literally halfway through the fight said, you know what about Rudy? Half that shit's fake too. So all in all, TWOHIG.
All right, so Nick does win the second point. We are going on to the third question. Nico does need to win this question in order to stay in the game. The category is, I don't remember. It is biopics. Biopics, chosen by Mr. Nick. And the question is, what famous actor or actress should have a biopic made about them? So, Nick, you drafted this. You get to start 1 minute when you start talking.
I need to preface this by saying I am not trying to pitch the lesson you should learn from this biopic. I'm saying that what I'm going to pitch is going to make a really great biopic that should be open to interpretation as to like how you feel about the person afterwards. And that person I'm talking about is none other than Gert Frobe. Yes, you don't know who that is. That is none other than Arik Goldfinger himself, the main villain from Goldfinger. Primarily a German actor. He's acted in over 100 films, many of them German, but he's also acted in his most prominent role of Goldfinger. So why Gert Frobe? Gert Frobe has a very interesting past. He's known for playing villains. And one of the coolest quotes I found while researching Gert Frobe was how, he always played villains, so everyone always saw him as this evil guy, but he loves to laugh. He loves to bring laughter to people, and he never really got a chance to do that in the movies. And the reason that's important is because, I guess I don't have a whole lot of time to pitch this. I'll do it in the 5 rounds. He used to be a Nazi, and he saved a Jewish family during the Holocaust.
Time. Nico, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
Keyword here is famous actor or actress, and Dave Bautista has been a public figure since the year 2000. He's been a bouncer, lifeguard, bodybuilder, father, grandfather, 3-time ex-husband. He worked his way up in the WWE until he became one of the company's biggest stars. He became the company's ambassador to the Philippines, had a brief stint in MMA. Now he's a professional actor who has been in some of the biggest blockbuster hits of the past decade. Now, the guys like John Cena, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, they've also made these kind of career changes, but what separates Dave Bautista from those other three is that those three always wanted to be the biggest stars in the world and have gone to great lengths to protect that stardom. That's why there's been a lot of big concern over the Hulk Hogan biopic that Chris Hemsworth is going to do, because Hulk Hogan's such an egomaniac that one doubts if we're actually going to see the real life events that happened in Hulk Hogan's life leading up to that character's big stardom boost. Dave Bautista, on the other hand, is actually a humble man who is aware that he's not perfect, and he's always strived to be the best, and he got into these lines of work because he wanted to find something he was good at and something that would allow him to come out of his shell. And that's
time. 5 minutes of free form when you guys start talking.
Okay, so I'm just going to finish up the pitch really quick because I swear I got cut off. So Gert Frobe joined the Nazi Party at age 16. He didn't know what it was. Like, Hitler hadn't gotten to like Hitler status yet, where they hadn't invaded Poland yet. In fact, Gert left before that happened. Where the movie picks up is Gert Frobe's movies have been banned in Israel, and that's a real thing that happened. And the reason they get unbanned, which you find out at the end of the movie, because this movie is going to be told through the story of the person he protected from the Nazis and saved their life. Israel, once learning that fact, actually brings brings his films back. So the movie's going to be framed in the sense that everyone thinks Gert Frobe is a villain because, like, what Nazi wasn't a villain, and it's very true. But the fact of the matter is he did something right while making very incorrect choices. So it's going to be a very cool dynamic where you find out what he actually did throughout his time there. That sounds like a lot more interesting story than the one you just pitched, which not only sounds similar to 5 other people you named, but most of the exciting parts of his life are already on tape. I can go watch a WWE match with Dave Bautista in it.
Yes, but they're not exactly told through his eyes, and that's the interesting part of it. Because like when Dave Bautista was putting out his novel in 2007, he said, and this is a quote from an interview he did, "I didn't want to tell my story unless it was honest." He is someone who is more interested in you getting to know who he is than portraying himself as something he's not, and that's important to him. And also, I need to reiterate, he's famous. He's been in the public eye for like 20 years, but still there's a lot that I think the movie-going audience doesn't know about him and the wrestling audience doesn't know about him. Whereas with Gert Frobe, you said his name in the chat and I was like, who? Nobody outside of Jake Marangoni and James Bond fans are going to know who that guy is. So it kind of defeats the question of picking a famous actor because no one knows who that guy is.
He's a famous actor. You're really going to try and nitpick me with what the word famous means. He's an actor who's been in films. People know who he is. He's been in several hundred films. Just because you don't know who he is doesn't mean he's not a famous actor. The fact of the matter is he is. So we can squash that right now. Or I guess it's already decided if Gert Frobe isn't a famous actor.
Put a poll out on the Multiplex page and ask, do people know who Gert Frobe is?
Do that in the next 5 minutes. Anyway, the story that I'm telling with Gert Frobe is so far and away from Dave Bautista's. It is awesome. It's an awesome story. And I'm not asking you to decide whether Gert Frobe is a hero or if he's a villain. But the fact of the matter is, if you start off the movie by portraying him as he played Nazis in movies because he was a Nazi. People always saw him as a villain. If by the end of the movie you can come around and not say, hey, I think this is a good guy, but wow, he made some interesting choices. He did the right thing in saving this family, and he's a guy who likes to bring laughter to people. Maybe my preconceptions at the beginning of this movie are different. And I think the fact that people today don't know Gert Frobe as much, he's still a famous actor, he qualified for the question, that's even better because you don't know what you're getting when you're going in. Dave Bautista's an awesome dude, and I'm sure he is very nice and honest. The fact of the matter is I want to see an interesting movie, not one that's just honest. The one of Gert Frobe can be honest as well.
First off, I haven't gotten a chance to actually pitch some of the things you could see in a Dave Bautista biopic yet. But secondly, I need to mention, like, would a Gert Frobe biopic even get made? Because one, does he have a big enough name to actually justify paying for a movie like this to be made? Yeah. Secondly, he was a Nazi. Like in this era of cancel culture, would that movie even get made? No, come on, don't roll your eyes at me. That's a legitimate
because you're arguing semantics. You're not telling me why my movie is worse than yours. Yes, we're going to assume that the movie's going to get made. We're going to assume he's a famous actor. These are all predetermined things before we start arguing the question. But go on.
The devil is in the details of the question. So if like criteria matters here. But things you could see in a Dave Bautista biopic. Growing up as a Filipino kid in Washington, D.C. while living in poverty with lesbian mom. Witnessing 3 murders on his front lawn by the age of 9. He was a car thief in the age of 15. He was living on his own at age 17. He almost went to jail after an incident he had while bouncing. Someone got seriously hurt. He decided to join pro wrestling because he was ashamed of the fact that he didn't have enough money to pay for his kids' Christmas presents. So he had to ask one of his co-workers for a loan to help pay them off. And that was one of the key points of him turning his life around and starting pro wrestling. Like he was afraid of public speaking, so he would wear sunglasses when he would cut promos. That's an interesting look into the life of Dave Bautista and what makes him tick. And that's only just a few bullet points of like the first 5 years that you could cover of this biopic.
So rough childhood, someone who turns to sports to overcome their rough childhood. Sounds like Creed. Sounds like a million movies I've seen before. What I'm pitching is not something that I've personally seen before, and it actually makes you think, and it's a worthwhile story to tell.
I cut out, but time. All right. So this was Nick's question, right? Yes. So yes. Nico, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Frobe died in the 80s. So, like, are there even any people alive and around left to actually ask for material that they can use for this biopic of him? And again, he's a Nazi. Would that even get made? And is there enough interest in a Gert Frobe biopic for that movie to get made? It's a compelling story. I'll give you that. But again, would it get made? Because is Gert Frobe actually famous? Dave Bautista is famous. He's been in the public spotlight for a long ass time. He's been the ambassador to the Philippines for WWE. And I'd love to see a lot of moments in his career through his eyes that we didn't get to see. Like, how was he affected by the passings of Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, who were two of his closest friends backstage? How did the fight backstage with Booker T go? It's been legend that fight, and like it's a fight he lost too. But like we've only heard Booker T's side of the story. Like, how did the Drax character come to be? Like, what did Dave Bautista do to make that character his own? How did he do preparing for his own James Bond movie?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. That was the first time I've heard Booker T's name in a while, man. I just had Schmodown flashbacks. Nick, you are actually looking very grainy right now. Are you?
Oh,
are you with us?
I am. Should I leave and come back?
No, you're good now. Okay, you just looked pretty grainy when you came back to me.
Okay.
1 minute when you start.
The most interesting parts of Dave Bautista's biopic that you just pitched to me are things that are on screen already, or at least those moments of time are already sort of on screen. How is him being an ambassador to the Philippines? How is that interesting to watch on film? I don't think it is. The fact of the matter is, yes, there are accounts and there are people who are still alive who knew who Gert Frobe was. There's all these semantics you're trying to argue. Do you know who Mr. Turner is? Was everyone clamoring for a Mr. Turner biopic with Timothy Spall? No, they weren't, but it got made. It's a pretty good movie. Movies can get made without all this huge clamoring for them. The fact is, it's a story that needs to be told because it hasn't been told before. It's very interesting. It outweighs yours by miles. The fact of the matter is that Dave Bautista had a rough childhood and he turns to sports. I've seen that movie 100 times. I don't need to see it again. I can go watch Dave Bautista be on WWE and wrestle. I can go watch the MC. I can go watch Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't need to figure out how the Drax role came about. We know. Kevin Feige told us. He auditioned and he got it. Great. Cool story. I don't need to see it on film. The fact is, Gert Frobe makes you think. The story is one that needs to be told. It's one that hasn't been told, and it'll bring more in the public eye.
All right. Cody, we are going to you first.
So, as one of the people that help write the questions, and when we accept an answer, semantics stop at the door for me. They always have, they always will. Because if that's the case, I would have told Nick, hey, that one doesn't count. You have to submit somebody else. It counted. Basically, why I was told is there was stuff about him being a Nazi and cancel culture. Would that come out? We're assuming the movie is getting made. Why wouldn't that work? Basically, the only thing was his star power. I think Nick's closing was very strong when he said, I see him in Guardians of the Galaxy. I can watch him do wrestling matches. We've heard other people's accounts. The story we haven't heard is this guy's account. And I always put, which one would I buy a ticket to? I'd go with two.
Brian.
I was thinking about what Cody was talking about because from debating last season, where he talks about if an answer didn't qualify, it would have been turned down. So they don't like to argue semantics, like a genre of a film or if somebody's famous or not. Because yes, that was going through my mind as Nico was saying that. But I thought Nico actually pivoted very well off of that and turned it from whether or not he's famous to then would there be any interest in the movie because of that. And I kind of agree with him that I didn't think a lot of people aren't familiar with him and therefore there wouldn't be as much interest in the movie. I think once he actually started pitching his movie, we talked about how he witnessed murders as a child, was a car thief and grew up. That part actually got me interested in his film. And so which one would I buy a ticket to was actually Nico.
All right. So comes down to me. I hate this. There's a few things here. Interesting. I agree with both of these people. Brian's right that I think those things about Nico's story that he pitched, I really liked. That sounds interesting to me. I would watch a Dave Bautista movie. However, I'm sorry, it always happens that way. However, when Nick said, that's Creed, I've seen it 100 times, that was a big thing for me. So I gave it to Nick. which means your winner by way of knockout is Mr. Nick Twig. Nico, we will start with you. Not the best game. Kind of gave up on the first question there, but you had some good arguments in questions 2 and 3. How are you feeling?
Not great. Not great. There was definitely a lot of ring rust here. I haven't debated since I think like August of last year, and that wasn't even here. That was somewhere else. Let's see here. I gave up in the first question. I insulted people we hang out with on a regular basis to close out an argument out of. And right when I was finally starting to find my groove, it was too late. I'd prefer this video never sees the light of day. And I know I have no control over that. So
it's coming out Thursday.
Oh joy! I'm gonna have so many apologies to dish out. Basically, I couldn't get the ball rolling, and it sucks.
Yeah, it's not fun when that happens. I've been there in a debate. I get it, but sometimes that's how it be. So unfortunately, this does end your time in this tournament, but it will not end your time with Fanzone debate. So hopefully you can come back stronger next time for the next opponent. I look forward to it. We will see you then. Let's move over to the winner, Nick. You have won. You by knockout. You are now 4-1. Just climbing those ranks. How are you feeling about the match?
Yeah, no, it feels good. I feel a little more awake than I did when I started. I feel like this experience may have helped sort of center me. Just a fun fact I want to tell everyone. I had never seen Warrior when I picked it. I just knew somewhere in the back of my mind, I was like, I feel like Nico loves this movie. I don't know why, but I think he does. And so I picked Warrior. And granted, I watched it before coming here today. And honestly, I kind of believe myself. It's a pretty damn good movie. So if anything, Nico, thank you for making me watch Warrior. No, I feel good. I feel back in the swing of things. I like just talking and expressing my opinions and viewpoints. And if you guys relate to them, all the better. So I appreciate it.
All right. Well, Nick, this means that you are moving on in the tournament. You're going to move on to round number 2. You are going to be playing the winner of a match we're filming in a couple days here that airs in 2 weeks. You are going to be playing the winner of Kaleb Boatman and Nazario Montenegro.
God. Well, that's
so
nice.
I think both of those matches would be very interesting. But if you had to pick one, who would you rather debate?
I don't know, man. Both of those just sound like a bad time for all sorts of different reasons. I argue with Boatman more often than I argue with Nazario, so I'll take Nazario, please.
All right, that's fair. Well, we'll see you in a couple weeks, sir, for that match. Very exciting. Cody, final thoughts.
One, I don't think Nico should hang his head too low. I said I've played TWOHIG. He's not easy to debate against. He's very creative. He thinks on the fly. He's very passionate. What I would make a suggestion is maybe don't rely on notes so much and try to come up with it on the fly. It's just a little bit better instead of coming in that thing. I am worried for TWOHIG if he has to play Nazario because I have to argue with him about my letterbox reviews, and I'm always wrong, and it's my opinion. So it's going to be a weird time. And Boatman and him, I just want to see who yells "shut the fuck up" first, and I think it will come from Boatman, and I can't wait for that moment. But yeah, this is a fun night. It didn't end the way that Nico wanted, but I wouldn't be too down on it. It was TWOHIG's night.
Brian, final thoughts from you?
I agree. TWOHIG is a tough competitor, debater. I've already beat him once, even though he paid off the judges, as they technically said otherwise. But It is what it is. Nico, he had a tough night. I think that he didn't get to do his strongest category, which would have been Star Wars. Which, if he had started off with that one, we might be having a whole different conversation now. Who knows? But instead, he got stuck on Star Trek, where like Cody said, like I said, it's good to have notes, but if you rely too much on them, and you get deer in the headlights when you can't for your notes, then that's going to cost you in the debate. But it was still a fun time.
Absolutely. So, guys, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of Fanzone Debate. But I believe we have a couple Warzone matches coming out today. It's a 4-match weekend. So look out for all those matches. It's going to be very exciting. And we'll be back here 2 weeks from today for Kaleb Boatman versus Nazario Montenegro. It airs on April Fool's Day, but I promise you it won't be an April Fool's match like the in the past. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Asshole! That's my bad. I was sending a tweet.